right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Haki Ami here, the Success Scholar. Thank you for tuning in, listening in. Man, it's an honor and pleasure to join you here this Thursday, October the 19th. We are at the 4:30 Eastern Standard Time mark. Haki Ami, the Success Scholar. I have the honor and pleasure to be joined by one of Baltimore's premier activists, authors, historians, and tourists. He heads the Black tourism industry. He's the founder of BBH Tours. Has been doing tremendous work around educating the Black community in areas of business and tourism and history throughout the state of Maryland. Brother Lou Feilds of BBH Tours. Greeting to you, my brother. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, brother Hakeem?
Yeah,
Good to,
man. I gotta get you down with the StreamYard stuff, brother.
yeah, I'm catching on, man. I'm learning all this new technology, and
Yeah,
I believe in
yeah,
it.
yeah. No, so we on our Facebook, our both my Facebook pages, my Raising Consciousness and Capital Facebook group, and my YouTube Raising Consciousness and Capital group. So definitely, we've been wanting to, get you in here and just, share, just a little bit of what is going on, just in Baltimore and even in the state of Maryland. Of course, you and I have been getting around with a lot of work surrounding the Frederick Douglass, and previously to that, you've done some work along the Harriet Tubman. But you also into some cryptocurrency now. That's
Yeah.
tremendous. So yeah, so we can, sort of. But you made some news a few weeks ago speaking about Black inclusion or the lack of thereof surrounding the tourism industry. So just for those who may not be as up on that, and you're always testifying in front of City Hall, or not, in front of, but the different meetings that they have about these dollars that go to many of the large white owned uh, museums and foundations, et cetera, et cetera. So just open up about that, and has there been any progress or any movements towards equity in Baltimore, and what have you seen over the years?
Well, this is, I guess, my 25th year. I started as a volunteer back in the mid 90s when there were not a lot of emphasis and awareness on African American tourism. So,
Mm,
I, when the late Stephen Pace, we published one of my first books, which was this particular book, the Baltimore African American Tourist and Resource Guide, which, in
mm,
addition to listing historical sites for tourism, it also
mm,
included 500 Black-owned businesses. One of which I'm proud to say today, as we prepare for the 26th anniversary of the Million Man March, the inside back cover of this magazine has a photo of the Million Man March. This photo was taken by none other than the legendary J.D. Howard.
oh
And
wow, yes, yes, yes.
cover of a book we published almost 25 years ago promoting tourism, but also artists and craft people like J.D. Howard. And now what
Mm-hmm.
we see as we move towards this new talk of these new buzzwords, diversity, inclusion, and equity. And the mayor ran on a campaign of Mayor Scott. His campaign focused on looking at everything through the lens of equity. And sure enough, we have seen some progress to answer that question specifically under Mayor Scott leadership, giving him credit for what I've seen so far. There was a lot of emphasis on including Art Social Club, the Black Arts and Entertainment District, and some other funding that came in through the state with Senator Antonio Hayes. So we really are seeing some progress. And what we want to see, as well as the progress, is progress in diversity, which we see, particularly now with Visit Baltimore, including some people of color in their websites, in their commercials, paid advertising, paid contracts. They're putting them in some
Mm-hmm.
people of color in the publications. That's diversity, and that's moving forward for progress. As far as inclusion, as people of color, as African Americans, we always know that fight for inclusion always continues, no matter what level we're at or what type of degrees we may have or what side of the tracks we're born on or what side of the country we're born on, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from upstate North down to the South. African Americans have always had to fight for inclusion and not to be treated as second class citizens. That has not changed. In fact, some would say the aftermath of President 45 has pushed back civil rights somewhat, which is why Al Sharpton recently called for the March on Washington for civil rights as well as maintaining voting rights. And then when you look at the word, and I think the biggest word of these coded words, diversity, inclusion, the big word is equity. Because without equity, you can have diversion. Excuse me, you can have diversity and you can have inclusion. Meaning,
Mm.
Malcolm X said, just because you invite me to dinner and everybody else has a steak on their plate and my plate is empty, some would say that's a diverse dinner gathering because you got a man of color at the table. Some would say,
Right.
yes, inclusion because a man of color is at the table. But Brother Malcolm
Mm.
diminished saying, if I don't get the same steak you're eating, then it's not inclusion and diversity on an equitable parity where everybody's eating the same type steak at the same time, which brings us
Mm-hmm.
to the conversation of American, the dream on America. What is that American dream? It's for everyone, regardless of race, creed, or color, or religion, or gender, to have that same opportunity. Well, we know, as Dr. Andre Butler used to say, when you're born black, you're born at minus. You're not born
Mm.
at starting point like everybody else. Even the
Right.
immigrants, man, they started at zero. We started at minus zero. Some would say
Mm.
minus 19 or 400 years to catch up. So,
Mm.
in parity and equity, African Americans are making some inroads tied to getting greater positions, greater employment opportunities, higher salaries, but all that's tied to, again, equity and education. An uneducated
Mm-hmm.
population going to struggle. It's just that simple. So each generation has to further the educated pursuits of the generation before them. Like I should have more education than my father. My daughter should have more education than me. Her granddaughter
Right.
should have education than all of us. Now, that may not be in a traditional 4 year quote unquote college education. It could be in vocational training. It could be in entrepreneurship. It could be mastering something that's unique to that person. But the opportunity must be based on not just diversity, not just inclusion, but the heavy word, that word called equity, which brings me to why I have advocated at City Hall, at the state level with you when we went down to meet with the chair of the Maryland Tourism Development Board. He just happened to be the president of the Six Flags. You joined with me that day, and we went and we saw what happened there as relates to our points being valid, but inside help from other people of color against us rule today. People on the
Mm.
inside. Some people call them gatekeepers, buffers, but we used to say black folks sacrifice to get a black folk person in the door. And now once we get you in that door, you have to not only use your influence to keep your job, but also how do you help the next sister or brother if you're on the inside? If you're in the room when the $1 million deals are going down, for example, our elected officials are in the room at federal, state, and local level when budgets are being, you know, divided up. It's that
Mm.
person on the inside who has to become our advocate. Although I might see something on the inside, outside and raise a little protest or have a little something to say about it, like most people now saying something about the police chief, people saying something about the schools chief. But if you don't have people on the inside, the outside voices can be silenced over time.
Mm.
These appointments, politicians can be 4 years, 20 years, lifers. So if you only have support on the outside and no inside help, we have a hard road to toe, which is why we got out and fought for the right to vote. So that based on our population and our ability to get to the polls, cast our vote, we can vote in people of color. That's been our greatest hope, that upon doing that, Archie, we would see progress and maybe a little faster than what we're seeing it right now. But progress is in the air. Things are moving. People of color are now more than half of the population of the state of Maryland. We're no longer the minority population. Minorities are the majority population in our state. You really can't get no bill passed in the Maryland General Assembly without African American votes. You can't get
Right.
well, you can't get a bill through City Council of Baltimore
Mm.
without
Mm-hmm.
black. And probably the same in Prince George's County. You're not going to get nothing passed in Prince George's County if black folk who have the power to vote up or down don't agree. So that's where I think we need to make our connection now. That's why I want to applaud you and your effort because you maintaining that relationship, that communication in Ursa Harris and others with our elected officials at the state level. And we have to keep that communication going so when it's time for them to cast their votes, they can hear from their constituents. We are the African American majority population in Baltimore City. We are part of the majority population in the state of Maryland. Our voices must be heard so that vote accordingly. So I'm gonna stop right there because I know I could go on.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, no, definitely appreciate that
Take your
insights.
volume
And
up a little bit.
hold on, let me see if I can turn it up. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, vaguely. It's a little soft on your volume.
Let me
How's my volume?
yeah, your volume good. Hold on, I may be able to turn it up some.
Yours went down a little bit, but I can see I heard you.
Let me see. Automatic adjustment microphone. Let me see. Okay, hold on. Okay, how did that?
That's better.
Okay, all right, pumped it up all the way. All right, yeah, no, we definitely appreciate those insights, and we definitely have to be on the front line. So, and just to let everybody know, just going back, we didn't get a chance to talk about, the whole Frederick Douglass tours, and I'm really ready to, dig deeper into a lot of things have been going on over the past few weeks about the Frederick Douglass. How long you been doing the Frederick Douglass tour?
Yeah, while I talk about the tours, why don't you try to send that volume up a little bit so people now have the screen to hear what you're saying. But I
Oh,
got involved in tourism back in the mid 90s as a volunteer. And as I volunteered, I soon saw I had to do some research on the subject matter so that if I did have tourists, people coming from in town or out of town on the tour, I would at least have a basic working knowledge of this historical site. We don't take those kind of sites for granted unless you actually live it and understand there's a value in knowing the history of these famous houses, churches, neighborhoods, communities, business buildings, and places where events took place. In modern day time, people remember the unrest after the Freddie Gray unfortunate killing by the police. We know now that Soundtown is even more historic because of that incident. Penn North became ground zero, but how do we turn that as a product into a tourism magnet where people would not be afraid to come to Pennsylvania Avenue, to come up down North Avenue and Cumberland and Caroline and all those streets where the history, the Black history is. So it's a big thing when you talk about doing these tours because once you get involved with the history and the tours and the heritage, you now got to get involved in the protection, the promotion, and preservation of these historical sites, which helped me understand what was happening with a brother like J. Bill Reed, that's passed after years of being the sculpture of
you
the
sound a
history
little
of
gargled.
Baltimore.
Hold on. Put that. Put it up closer, or let me see. I don't know why you're sounding low. How am I sounding?
Well, it's better now. It's a little better.
Okay, I don't know why. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so you talk about the tours. I started doing the Frederick Douglass Field Walking Tour in the year 2000. And some folks in town tomorrow. I'm doing it tomorrow for some folks out in the DC and Chicago area. And in doing that tour, it gives a new insight into the Fells Pond history. We know Fells Pond has been a historic waterfront. We know Fells Point as being a historic maritime community, historic immigrant community, but based on the facts that we have discovered on the tour, Fells Point is the birthplace of Black folks in Baltimore. And a young Frederick Douglass arrived there in 1838. No, excuse me, he came in 1826. He escaped in 1838. So when you look at Baltimore going back to becoming incorporated as a city in 1797, 1797, the city of Baltimore became an incorporated city. Well, you fast forward about 29 years later, here's a
young Frederick Douglass in Baltimore, 1826. However, he wasn't the first African Americans to arrive in Baltimore. African Americans were in Baltimore from its earliest beginning in 16, 1700s. And so when you start doing the tours, you research and you can highlight these unknown aspects of our history as relates to even something as simple as knowing Frederick Douglass lived in Baltimore City for 12 years as a slave from age 8 to age 19. A lot of our students in our public school system are not aware of that fact. So through my tours and hundreds and dozens of groups and thousands of people coming on that tour, the information about a young Frederick Douglass living in Fells Point is now part of that fabric of that story. But in discovering the story of Frederick Douglass down in High Key, we also discovered that Billie Holiday, a young Billie Holiday, started her career in Fells Point before she went on to New York. We learned the story of Joshua Johnson, the great art and artist, portrait painter, started his career down there in Fells Point. We learned the history of Isaac Myers, and that's Myers, Myers, who founded the first African American shipyard in America, employed over 200 people in Fells Point in the 1860s. Frederick Douglass served on his board. The first colored coffee union, almost the first union for blacks, was started in Fells Point, right there by Mr. Myers and Mr. Douglass. So the history, through the tours, we are now unfolding so much history about Baltimore that we as the Baltimore people, we take it for granted. I mean, we just full of Black history in Baltimore. And the effort now is to ask for, well, I'm beyond asking and requesting. We're at the demand stage now for inclusion and diversity and parity and equity and funding so that when you see a Pratt Street, downtown Baltimore, top tourism center, when you see Pratt Street getting millions and billions of dollars, we have to advocate that Pennsylvania Avenue gets the same kind of parity because we as taxpayers deserve no less. We can't let the color of the people in a certain area dictate this investment. So on October 25th, I know you had asked me to speak about events. One big event we're having is October 25th, 11 a.m. As Larry Young would say, lottie, everybody, be at City Hall because we're not having necessarily a protest, but we're rallying for our city, for our community, for citizens, for our school kids to be able to go to school, get a quality education, and for every family to come home safe and not be coming home to gunfire. And all this gunfire is really wrecking our city right now. I mean, some of the issues with politics, okay, fine, but we can work on those and live to see another day. But this issue of violence and gunfire and shooting and killing innocent bystanders, I think they say 14 teenagers were killed this year in our city. That's to me, and I said this years ago on BDX Live Talk Show, that this is the most crucial emergency in the city. I said that, I guess 7, 8 years ago when I was doing BDX Live over there on the radio with you guys, that the violence and the gunfire is having such a toll on our city. And unless we can get some way to get a hand on that, it's getting worse every day. I'm like 17 people shot in 1 week, 8 people shot in 1 day, 6 people shot,
Wow.
3 people shot. I mean, it's every day we hear this, and I don't know if I have the answer, but I know working together we can come up with an answer. And if we need to remove some people, I think some people got to be removed. That's what I say. You're not doing the job after 2 years. I can't go much longer with that. You had 2 years to get this much straight, or 3 years. I think 5 years almost. You've been down this one. Some people have been on this job since 2016. And if you haven't seen a market improvement since 2016, and it's not even getting better statistically, then sometimes somebody got to make a change. You know, I say sometimes.
Right.
Now I'm gonna get you political today because it's Million Man March. It's Million Man March weekend. So today we want to really put out a lot more good news than bad news. But this murder and this shooting and this violence, man, we got to get a handle on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, no, definitely appreciate that. So I know you have something coming up with. Is that coming up with the bikers supporting the institutions?
Yeah, I have a few calendar events that I wanted to bring to your attention, and that includes that Charm City motorcycle ride. But before we get into the events, I wanted to spend a little time, if I could, with you, talking about our Black History Tour that we just did
Yes.
to Columbus, Ohio. And of course,
Oh,
if you
right,
want to
right.
go into the
Yes.
Frederick Douglass, have you talked about the Frederick Douglass stuff already in your show? You talked about the mural before and the memorial
Yeah.
bridge.
Yeah. We can talk about that. Definitely. Definitely.
Well, let's just quickly touch on that because September 3rd, and this will close out our Frederick Douglass part. September 3rd, 1838 is the day Douglass escaped from slavery in Fells Point. It's known as National Day of Freedom for Frederick Douglass, September 3rd. So this
Mm.
year, on September the 4th, down in Eastern Maryland, his birth county, a young man, his distant nephew, Terrence Bailey, led an effort along with some folks from all over the country to create, I think it was a $50,000 Frederick Douglass mural in historic Easton along a very historic path there. And it's a wonderfully done mural, the same fellow who did the Harriet Tubman mural. And then that
Hmm.
was on that Saturday, September 4th, and had a nice community day, bands and music. And then, of course, the historic unveiling, which you were there and I was there, and Kim Poole sung the song. It was a great time for us. And then on Tuesday, that following week, Mayor Bowser of Washington, D.C., the mayor herself, unveiled the new $440 million Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge going connecting Anacostia and Washington. So those were two great days for Frederick Douglass. And another group, the Frederick Douglass Honor Society down in Eastern Maryland, also unveiled a wonderful portrait of Anna Murray that's in the library down there. That also happened that
Mm.
weekend. So
Yes.
fast forward, not let's not skip over the great lunch that we had at one of Mayor Berry's awarding spots. That was real fun
Right.
too at the end of
Right.
our
Right.
day.
Right. Yes.
And
No.
but
Yeah.
what I did this past week, I got a good friend up in Columbus, Ohio. You know, the, state, the city named
What
after
happened
his.
to the Turks, brother?
So I went up there to see my pal, man, and we
Yeah.
had
Right.
tickets to the Ohio State game that Saturday. Ohio State Stadium called the Horseshoe. Of all nicknames, it's called the Horseshoe. It
Right.
has a capacity to hold about 110,000 people. So on that Saturday morning, representing Maryland, I went up in there with my Maryland Terps, number 34, rest in peace, Mr. Bias and Bias. And I went up in there with 100,000 of them Ohio State Buckeyes, man, and they was like, wow, I'm all over the place. You can believe me when I tell you. But I had my gear on, and we did good in the first quarter. We held a team that normally scores 46 points in the first quarter. We held them to 10 points, and we got three. And by the end of the third quarter, it was something like 66 to 17. The Buckeyes just
Mm.
smashed Maryland. And I guess we'll wait to get them on the basketball court. But in that Big Ten, man, that Maryland just lost an hour, and we went up there and we just couldn't show up and play Big Ten football. And Ohio State kind of crushed us pretty bad. But after the game, my pal, who used to work for the Columbus Calling Post, the black newspaper that covered Buster Douglas, when he knocked out Mike Tyson, he was in the house with me, so he knew what I like. So after the game that Saturday and all day that Saturday and all day that Sunday, we hit black businesses in Columbus, Ohio. We hit a place for breakfast called What's in a Waffle. We hit a coffee shop.
Mm.
We hit a young brother. He had 3 units on a little strip mall. He had three together. He had a flower shop. He had a pet shop. And he had a candle and collectible shop. One young man named Brother B. And so we spread some love in those black shops like that. Ended up hanging out at the BMW that night, BMW. And then the next day, he took me to the Columbus Fine Arts Museum. And so we not only were able to hit and touch base with those black businesses, but he also took me to a district. It's called the King Lincoln District, after Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln. And this district is right off of downtown Columbus, Ohio. And it's right next to that Western Waffle. We had our breakfast at Black owned business there. But they
Hmm.
have a wall of pride. It's a block long. It's done all in black and white, but you go through panel after panel after panel of historic events and people from Columbus, Ohio. And the one I saw, where Buster Douglas, we all know Buster because he was a big boxer,
Hmm.
like Tyson. That's his hometown. But I was also impressed to learn that Bernie Casey, the great actor, he's from Columbus, Ohio. And so that was
Wow.
really great seeing. And I posted some of these pictures. I may have not, but hopefully I posted them. If not, I put them on my Facebook page. For those who want to
Mhm.
see, when we go to these cities, even though the people who work at their convention and visit bureau may not have all the knowledge, because I did ask to the lady before I went to the lady who worked there, because I heard on the Black Tourism Network a couple weeks back. I say, send me a list of the black businesses that I patronize while I live in the city. But she heard of the city about six. Three were closed permanently because of COVID, but there were a couple more. I found a couple more that she didn't even know about. So what I'm gonna do is email her and make sure she knows
Mm.
about black businesses. Because when people don't know where the black businesses are, they always see entertainment and barbershops are, beauticians. Because there's nowhere else. That's where everybody knows what's going on in your city. The same fellow that did the high talk about. And so I found my buddy, we had a great time. And I'm back here because I did have the mountain, no joke. West Virginia, Maryland, PA, was a mountain. But anyway, it was a good thing, and I had a good time.
Wow.
We work on so many things and projects to save our history and our heritage, but also to be very inclusive and diverse and create equity, particularly for the next generation of small business owners. And so what we want to do is have the shopping spirit as people get ready for Black Friday and November and the holiday shopping right on through Black History Month. We're going to create a new Zoom meeting for women-owned businesses, for Black women-owned businesses. It's going to be starting October 20th, 7:30, Thursday night, and go to Wednesday night, and go to October 20th, Wednesday night, and go from 7:30 to 9. And what we'll do with that, we have Black women-owned businesses who will come on, showcase their business, their product and services, give people their contact information, but a little story about how you got started in your business, what was your vision, what's your vision, and what did we try, how can we help? And hopefully these people will have products and services that the listening audience if not buy right then, but right now you got stuff in real time. They'll be showcasing their products, they're showing their products, talking about their products, and giving out websites and links where people can buy that day or the next day. We can do that all the way through March for National Women's History Month, so it can have an impact on our consumer spending during this October, November, December holiday period. And then January, people might do a little something for, I don't know, for Martin Luther King Day, might buy some gifts or something like that. But then we know February, a lot of people do Black History Month gifts. And then women are celebrating National Women's History Month in March. So we're going to kick this thing off, Black women on business showcase marketplace, October 20th, and run it right on through March 22. But meanwhile, getting back to
Yes,
the
sir.
business,
Yes, sir. Yes,
this
sir.
is the Million Man March weekend. Everybody should be able to say I was there. But all those persons born after 1995 or 1990 didn't get a chance to go to the march. What we'll be doing in
Right.
Baltimore, thanks to
Yes, sir.
leadership after us, is we'll start with a 6 o'clock sunrise prayer service at Julia Park, right by the reservoir, or what's left of it. And then we'll go to Derek Chase's place over there on Lafayette and Charles. I think it's called the Garage. And everything has arranged for a lot of different speakers. People come from all other areas, cities who had worked on the Million Man March, attended the Million Man March. And this being the 26th year, Baltimore is the one city who has not broken a celebration every anniversary year, October 16th, and that's thanks again to Ms. Harris. And so people that come on over to the place. It's free to get in, I believe. They might have a little fee for buying little stuff from the vendors. I would be have my book on sale, the book called Freedom Secrets, The History of the Underground Railroad in Baltimore. And I might even have some of these books. I might bring a couple of these out because this is a very historic collection here because it's got photos done by, the main man, J.D. Howard. So I might bring a couple of these books so people can at least see that, man. That's an awesome shot. J.D. has been under lately.
Yes.
Some of these just so true to him. And then we all talk about our experience going to the march and what we have done over the last, I guess, 26 years since the march. I have my personal story. I'll be sharing it because everything I've been doing, I created it out of going to the march. My nonprofit organization, which led to me starting the African American Tourism Council, that led to me starting the Maryland Underground Railroad Network, the Maryland Tourism hosting big events for tourism, and then going and joining with Mr. Ray Aidmer and serving as the lead sponsor of the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce and
Right,
actually
right.
there when we started the Black Dollar Exchange. All of that came out of going to the march in 1995 and what Minister Falcon asked us to do. He said it didn't matter what organization you did it with, whether it's a church, a synagogue, boys club, girls club, business, community,
Hmm.
just and do something
Right.
good to help your community. And
Yeah.
that was what we've
Yes.
done. Again, thanks for
Hey,
everybody.
but yeah.
We're going now, sir.
So in 5 minutes, I definitely appreciate your time. I told you we get you 30, 40 because I'm heading to this gubernatorial forum. So at the Westin, but it's going to be live streamed on the Black Caucus Foundation website, as well as the Black Caucus Maryland Black Caucus Foundation Facebook page at 6 p.m.
Okay.
But it's going to be at the BWI Weston, so that's a free event. But definitely check that out if you can. And I mentioned you in the national. I had audible mention for you in the National Black Unity newspaper in the article I wrote. But
Thank you.
and definitely, yes. I had Mr. Murphy on earlier, but so the breakfast. Say again?
You want me to hit the events real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what we got, folks. Tomorrow night, Earth and Mars is hosting a dinner with Dar Mooney of the Mooney Twins. Rest in peace, when his father Paul passed a couple months back. But if you call Eartha, and she can tell you what the dinner's going to be. Her number is 443-655-7198. 443-655-7198. And that again is going to be dinner with Dar Mooney, just dinner talk and discussion. And then that's tomorrow night, Friday. And then Saturday, of course, we got Sunrise Prayers at Drew Hill Park for May March today. And then we're all going to be at the Garage in 6 East Lafayette throughout the whole day. That's big time. Also on Saturday, Rodney and Kendrick Tillman, they're hosting their event honoring their grandfather, I believe, Charlie Tillman. And that's going to be at the Camp Callaway Park, that's the new park off 2200 Drew Hill. And that's Saturday, October 16th. Probably some nice jazz out in the community. I think it goes 12 to 2 at the Camp Callaway Park. So you go from Million Man March Day. Our event, which is a fundraiser for the, Little League at Leon Day Park, the Legal League Museum, Great Blacks and Wines, Ernestburg. It's really tied to supporting Black baseball. We're trying to support the parks, the youth, as well as the museums who preserve the legacy. Now that's going to be Saturday, October 23rd, beginning at 8 a.m. Meet up at the Northwest Plaza Shopping Center for the Charlotte City Motorbike Ride. So any of your friends got motorcycles, have them get at us and we can put them in that ride.
Right.
And that's going to be a charity ride leaving Northern Parkway, coming down 83, stopping south, stopping at the Great Blacks and Whites for refreshments, and then going up North Avenue. We hope to see 50 to 100 bikers, and we'll end up at Leon Day Park, Community Day. Saturday, October 23rd is the day the mayor's calling for cleanup day. So after we do our motorcycle, we'll be at the park, baseball games, basketball. It's all
Right.
Oh yeah, they will be having their annual fish fry at Leon Day Park. All right.
So,
That was mentioned October 25th, City Hall 11 o'clock rally for the citizens of Baltimore. And then November the 5th, we got Luther Scouting 14th annual prayer feast. That's going to be 8 to 12 at the Tiffany East, on Lombard Street. That's November the 5th, Friday night. And that's Leo Burrs. He's popping $70 for it. But all the crabs, the buffet you can eat, some of the free beer, dance party, no prizes. And I've been to it a couple of times. It's really nice. For good cars. And that's what we have to do for the rest of this year. Support these cars. It's like the October 23rd motorcycle charity ride.
right.
Support this crab feast because we're not getting a lot of help from the COVID money in the city and the American Rescue money. The application just got started for nonprofits. But if you don't have an official nonprofit, we can't apply for that money. So we need community support for these fundraisers.
Right.
And even do 5, 10, 15 bucks, don't matter. And then we got Wes Moore. He's the speaker at the Forum Caterers, Black Men Unifying Black Men, honoring 21 Black men. And that's going to be November 6th, 10 to 1. And Primrose Avenue. I got tickets for that, so y'all can get me for that. And anything you want, hit me at. You got me at 443
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
7974. But if you can't remember, just find out Luke Fields on Facebook. That's how we roll. And what we got to do, black folk and white folk, we got to work together to beat back the devil and the demons in this world. So good people can see each other rise up.
Right.
Make this world a better place for our children and our youth. So they can go
Yes,
to
sir.
quality education, come home without having to have bullets. These are the things we as a grown up adults must work on to make sure we don't have no situations like this going on too many more days. It's terrible right now. That. But meanwhile, all is not bad news for black children. We're advocating, we're staying on the case, we're not taking no back seats, and we're making our points well known. And we continue to fight the good fight for this equity as well.
Yes, sir.
So, brother,
indeed. All right, Luke. Hey, Luke. Well, I gotta get ready, brother. I gotta head on over. I gotta be there 5:30 sharp. So definitely put out your contact information if anybody want to reach you.
Yeah, I'm at 443-983-7974. But I'll be watching to see what these gubernatorial politicians are talking about.
All right, thank you, brother, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm heading to Tanzania, so I won't be with you this weekend. So I'll take lots of pictures and everything else. So we appreciate you, brother Lou Fields, everybody. So and shout out to Bill Gooden and Miss Peggy Morris that chimed in. So thank them both for chiming in, and Sisters for Sisters Network, and brother Bill Gooden and brother David Murphy for chiming in as well. So thank you, brother Lou, and we'll do this again sometime soon. All right. Peace and blessings, everybody. We out. Oops. Let me share this. Come on, get out of here.